Welcome, welcome. Trisha, hello. And Matthew Muncie. You guys can go ahead and just drop where you're coming in from in the chat. And we are going to get started here in a minute. Just going to wait for folks to join us. Hey, Adrian, you're back.
Bruce.
I'm Bruce.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank
Hey.
you for your comments this morning.
Oh, we
Very
love you.
nice. I could say the same about you. You're terrific. And you
Thanks.
lead this group, so.
Actually, this is a Cecilia group, but Cecilia is seriously under the weather after getting immunizations yesterday. So
Oh,
we are pinch hitting.
I got you.
Yeah.
I wondered
Myra,
why she wasn't there this morning.
I know. It's just not normal to even have something start without all of her Cecilianess. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem quite the same, but we're gonna do the best that we can today.
As
Yeah.
long as she doesn't tell RFK Jr. what happened.
Yeah. So you probably can see that Bill is getting ready if he hasn't already started the live stream. So if you guys do not want your photo on the video recording, go ahead and turn off your camera. And I know many of you are not shy, but I know some are. So we can do it both ways.
Hey, Bill, can you make me a co-host again, please? Can you have a sec?
Hey, Jeannie, just saw you enter.
All right, let me
Carrie's
some stuff up.
here. Christine Walk. Christine W. And Sharon. Hello, Miss Sharon. I'm even gonna call you Miss Sharon just like Cecilia does, so it'll seem kind of normal.
No, it makes me seem really ancient.
No.
I think that it's actually like a sign of respect though in the South, right? Isn't that a Southern thing?
Well, that
Yeah.
states what I
I
just
call very, very young people. I call
yeah,
anyone, yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. I say, yes,
chiropractor.
ma'am. Yes, yes, sir. I mean, they might be uh, 30, 40 younger than.
My chiropractor massage therapist is in her 50s, and she was saying, "Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, Miss Sharon." I'm like, "Oh my God."
Right,
But the
right,
thing
right, right.
is, the young kids, 20 and 30, will call me Sharon.
Right.
So
So
That's
I
good.
see
that
that
tradition was not
Beulah has
passed
joined us.
down, huh?
Hi, Beulah.
Yeah, I'm just kind of welcoming the folks. Jeannie, I see you're in now.
Yeah,
Okay, Beulah
You.
from Clarksville. A lot of stuff happening in Tennessee in the last 48 hours, right?
true.
Uh,
Here's Larry.
And Josephine. Hey.
All right, folks. Well, it seems like
Hi,
we've got a
Josephine.
nice little quorum going on. So
We're
why don't we
just
get this show going?
as distressed as the people try to make us sound.
Yeah, everyone dings when they come in.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Sorting Soup Book Club. As you may have heard, our fearless leader, Cecilia, is under the weather, so the rest of us are pinch hitting today. So we'll do our best. Give us some grace, and we'll keep it moving. So, this is the team. Y'all know us. So Beth, myself, Dr. Chris, we've got Dr. Melissa today, which is a special treat. It's been a while. Um, Adrian is here. I think we might have Merle and Boot Money around, maybe, if we're lucky. So, you know, we're all here. The gang's all here. And most importantly, you guys are here. So the party is real. Um, so we've talked about, well, we're all here, but what is sorting soup? That's where we all are now. So what is this sorting soup thing for any new folks? Um, It's a group space where we kind of process the events of the day, um, and we try to translate those events of the day into action. That's what sorting soup kind of like the regular version is. We're sort of doing a book club experience right now. So what our plan for today will be is we have been and we're continuing to read Project 2025, The Survival Guide. We are on chapter 3. If you don't have the book, no worries. I will put that in the chat for folks. And I'll also be putting it on the screen, but we will be reading it out loud together. So if you've got a good reading voice or you'd like reading, make sure you raise your hand. We're going to take some turns reading out loud. We'll have a little bit of discussion time, and um, in that discussion, we ask that people keep things very civil, constructive. Try and keep your comments to around 2 minutes. Either myself or one of the other facilitators will try to keep the conversation moving. So if your comments are over 2 minutes, I apologize in advance. We may have to interrupt just so everybody gets a turn. But if you do have more to say, you can raise your hand again, and you'll get another chance to speak. And then we'll close with something a little bit more cheerful than Project 2025, which is a cute little book called Lessons from Cats for Surviving Fascism. We'll take turns reading that. Again, I will share the PDF on the screen, and that's just a short little chapter. So that is the plan for the day. But before we jump in, we have a little practice here where we like to get grounded. So we will have Dr. Melissa lead us in getting grounded. So Dr. Melissa, over to you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here. And we are sharing this moment with the understanding that knowledge is power. And we're also going to be breathing into our own power as we breathe in the Bardo breath, which Cecilia has led us in. And there are many ways to do the Bardo breath, so do it as you would like. You might want to just see if there's any little places that you feel tension and just breathe through those. And breathe in, and you can breathe out to the count of 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. And this time out, 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then as you continue to breathe, remember that the Bardo is the place of in between where we know the past and we don't know the future. And it's a future that we are co-creating here among us in Sorting Soup, in the book club, and among our colleagues and friends. So as we breathe in, you breathe in hope, and you breathe out creation. And you breathe in joy, and you breathe out being together. And then you breathe in whatever is important to you, and breathe out, sending into the world the energy you want to send. here's where we thank the universe for bringing us the energy that we have and for taking the time to rest when we need to and renew. And this is one of those moments we can renew and take a moment as we move forward through the bardo and into our understanding of what has come before, so we can inform ourselves of where we are going and how to create together the world that we would like to create. And we'll do one more breath in and hold for a moment, like the bardo, and then breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And holding purpose and intention in mind and a sense of peace. And now, I thank everyone for joining in that moment. And I will call on the next person to move into the next part of our day.
Thank you, Melissa. I think that's always really helpful to help us really get settled into what we're about to do. So, on that note, what we're about to do is dive back into Project 2025, a survival guide. We are reading chapter 3. I put the PDF in the chat, and we're not going to start at the very beginning of chapter 3. If you have the book, we're going to start on, I believe it is the 3rd page of chapter 3, with the heading, The Broader Implication, Redefining Who Civil Rights Are For. We're skipping down some stuff because it's a summary of the next couple chapters. So we can skip that and get right to the juicy stuff. So if anybody would like to be a volunteer reader, we do have a couple of pages. Would love to have some volunteers, and it looks like I might have Constance as a volunteer. I'm going to ask Constance to unmute. If you would like to be a volunteer, if you want to get in line, you can raise your digital hand.
Okay, Rebecca, could you repeat? I'm on chapter 3.
Chapter
and
3.
Rights at risk, women, LGBTQ, etc.
That's the right chapter. We're not going to start at the beginning of the chapter. I believe it's the 3rd page. It's the heading that says the broader implication. Redefining.
I got it.
Yes.
All right, very good. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Great.
Okay. The broader implication, redefining who civil rights are for. What unites these proposals is a deliberate reframing of civil rights as privilege granted to groups deemed culturally aligned with the dominant political narrative. The universal, pluralistic vision of civil rights that has guided American policy for half a century is reinterpreted through the lens of selective entitlement. In this mold, civil rights are no longer serve to protect the vulnerable. They become shields for the powerful to resist cultural and legal change. This inversion is not subtle. It is a calculated effort to undermine the legitimacy of civil rights discourse itself. By flooding public debate with competing claims of victimhood, from anti-mask mandates to parental rights in education, Project 2025 cultivates confusion, cynicism, and disengagement. The more fragmented the conversation, the harder it becomes to build coalitions for actual civil rights enforcement. The language of rights, once a shared civic vocabulary, becomes contested territory. This is a hallmark of authoritarian systems, not the absence of law, but the repurposing of law to serve exclusionary ends. Ultimately, redefining civil rights is not about legal theory, it is about power. It is about who is seen, who is protected, who is allowed to thrive. Project 2025 aims to redraw those lines, not at the margins, but at the core. It seeks a future in which the apparatus designed to ensure equality becomes a tool of enforcement conformity. And if successful, the greatest victories of the American civil rights movement will not be undone overnight, but quietly, case by case, until their absence feels normal. Wow, I just have to take a breath there. Okay. Shall I go on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. The war on reproductive autonomy. Few issues more clearly illuminate the ideological core of Project 2025 than its approach to reproductive rights. In this context, the project's intent is unambiguous to end the era of reproductive autonomy in the United States. What began with the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade and Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization is treated by Project 2025 not as the end of a political fight, but as the beginning of a larger national transformation. The goal is to reconstruct federal policy around a worldview in which access to abortion, contraception, fertility treatments, and reproductive education is not only restricted, but actually dismantled. Through legislation, executive action, and administrative pressure, Project 2025 outlines a future in which reproductive choices are no longer private medical decisions, but matters of public morality, defined, regulated, and punished by the state. The strategy is multidimensional.
Thank you, Constance.
Okay,
Would you like to keep reading or would you the next person ready?
doesn't matter.
Why don't you take us through numbers 1 and 2, and then we can move on to the next person.
Okay.
Thank you.
1. Federal restriction on abortion access. Despite arguments that abortion should be a states' rights issue, Project 2025 proposes using federal powers to restrict it nationally. This includes measures such as reinstating and expanding the Mexico City policy, also known as the Global Gag Rule, defunding Planned Parenthood, criminalizing the mailing of abortion medication under the Comstock Act, and passing national abortion bans under the pretext of protecting life or ensuring consistency across state lines. Even more significantly, the project encourages the Department of Justice to redefine the legal framework around reproductive health care, treating abortion providers and support networks as potential violators of federal law. Legal scholars aligned with Project 2025 argue for novel applications of existing statutes to prosecute physicians, nonprofits, and even individuals who assist in abortion access. 2. Attacking medication abortion and telehealth. The rise of medication abortion, now the most common method of abortion in the United States, has become a primary target. Project 2025 calls for revoking FDA approval of mifepristone, limiting telehealth prescribing rights, and prosecuting providers who ship abortion pills across state lines. The goal is to close what it sees as loopholes left open by state-level bans and to use federal agencies as enforcement arms of an anti-abortion agenda. Telehealth, once championed for expanding rural and underserved communities' access to healthcare is reframed by the project as a threat to state sovereignty and public morals. Restrictions on digital communication, surveillance of mail order pharmaceuticals, and data collection from health platforms are all considered legitimate tactics to reduce accessibility.
Thank you, Constance. Patrice, would you like to take over?
Sure. If someone else though would like to read, I've already read before. I'm just opening that up. You know, I don't, maybe somebody joined later. If anybody wants to read, you want to raise your hand, otherwise I will. Okay,
Oh,
great.
I raised my hand, but I'll do it after you,
Okay, Lisa.
whenever
Okay,
you want
great.
to stop.
Okay, I'm ready to read. And then
Great,
you
thank
tell
you.
me when to stop. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, number 3, constraining contraception access. Though politically more controversial, wait, sorry, I've got to lower these hands. Okay, so I can, though politically more controversial, Project 2025 does not stop at abortion. Its materials and affiliated authors suggest a broader reframing of reproductive ethics that includes questioning the legal foundation of contraceptive access. This includes efforts to allow employers to opt out of contraceptive coverage in health plans, expand conscious exemptions for pharmacists, and challenge the federal mandate requiring insurance coverage of birth control. While a national ban on contraception remains politically unlikely, the gradual erosion of access through regulatory reinterpretation and selective enforcement is a hallmark of the project's approach. The emphasis is on removing guarantees, leaving access to the discretion of employers, local authorities, or market conditions. Number 4, undermining fertility and assisted reproductive technologies. In a lesser discussed but deeply consequential area, Project 2025 materials express skepticism toward assisted reproductive technologies, particularly in cases where embryos are destroyed or not implanted. This includes practices like in vitro fertilization, which has already come under legal scrutiny in some states post-Dobbs. The redefinition of personhood as beginning at conception creates a direct legal conflict with standard IVF procedures. By elevating embryo rights to a level equal to or greater than that of the individual seeking treatment, Project 2025 aligns itself with a legal philosophy that may jeopardize the future of ART altogether. Clinics, patients, and providers could face prosecution or civil liability under laws reinterpreted through a radicalized concept of fetal personhood. Number 5, defunding and reorienting federal health agencies. The Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, and the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, are all identified as targets for ideological realignment. Project 2025 advocates, wait, where'd I go? Where are we? Sorry, you just moved the thing. Where am I?
Sorry.
Okay, no, that's okay. Thank you. Project 2025 advocates for replacing agency leadership with politically loyal individuals, rewriting mission statements, and redirecting research and funding away from reproductive health. This bureaucratic purge would remove federal support for public health campaigns around contraception, STI prevention, maternal health, and sexual education. In their place, funding could be redirected toward pro-life counseling centers, abstinence-only education, and organizations with religious affiliations. Do you want me to stop and let Lisa read?
Yes, sure.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Patrice.
Okay. The broader ideological goal,
Yes.
reproductive control as social order. Underlying all of this is a deeper aim to restore a patriarchal order in which reproductive roles are legally and culturally rigid. Project 2025 does not present its policies as healthcare reform. It presents them as moral correction, a return to natural or family-centered values. In this vision, reproductive autonomy is not a right, it's a threat to social stability. Women and those assigned female at birth are reframed as custodians of a national morality project. Their choices, particularly in areas of sex, motherhood, and bodily autonomy, are subjected to a political calculus that prioritizes control over freedom. This is not incidental. It is central to Project 2025's vision of a reordered society. Shall I keep going?
Yes, please.
Legal tools, cultural strategy, and lasting impact. Project 2025 does not rely solely on legislation. It weaponizes regulatory reinterpretation, executive orders, and strategic litigation to create legal precedents that can stand even after political control changes hands. By building a new legal and cultural framework that treats reproductive autonomy as deviant or dangerous, the project seeks to make future policy reversals politically risky and legally difficult. This strategy is incremental but irreversible. Once clinics close, providers leave the profession or laws are passed defining embryos as legal persons. The infrastructure for autonomy disappears. And as that infrastructure vanishes, so too does the reality of choice. This is not just a war on abortion, it's a war on the entire idea that individuals should control their reproductive destinies. Project 2025 envisions a society in which such control is not a right, but a privilege, granted or denied according to the values of those in power. And that vision, if implemented, would mark a historic regression, not just for women's rights, but for the broader project of democratic freedom.
So let's stop there for now. I think we can, let's see how much, yeah. So that's one chunk of this. Thank you, Lisa. Excellent job. Thank you to all of our readers. So I would invite any discussion that people want to have about why might Project 2025 focus so much on the removal of these rights of reproductive autonomy? Why might that be important? Yeah, Constance.
Well, it it's important because it's all for the purpose of creating a very patriarchal society. Women in this society are considered dangerous, competitive, and impediments, I think, to men's ability to exercise authority kind of unchallenged in society. And so, they don't see women's freedoms as a positive, but as a negative threat to men being able to basically withhold or hold power exclusively in society. And it dawns on me. I've read something that the European countries are gradually pulling away from the United States. They don't trust the United States anymore because our values seem to be changing, in comparison to theirs. And you can see that, what we're doing in our country is going backwards instead of going forward. And I just think that they don't have I'm thinking that maybe they're thinking that, or assuming that we don't have the will anymore to be a forward-looking society and a society that expands freedoms for people, but rather one that restrains them, and that's not a compelling future for them.
Yeah, I agree. We're definitely losing our position and our credibility as forward-thinking, equal rights loving, democratic uh, people. So thank you, Constance.
Thank you.
Benita, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, it was hard for me to hold my tongue through all that. I couldn't even read. I don't understand what they want to take our reproductive rights, but they don't want to help with nutrition or child care for the little ones. They just want to have those babies born. And I don't understand through that list of what they're taking away. I haven't seen Viagra taken. I think that's just it's just what they're trying to do. And it's very aggravating. But that's what they want. So I'm done.
Thanks, Benita.
Hmm.
Bruce, go ahead.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Okay, good. First off, I found all this to be totally outrageous. Starting with the civil rights. I mean, that was the whole purpose of the civil rights movement, to help protect minorities who'd been discriminated against in the past. And now they're flipping it around to protect white nationalism. Come on. I mean, that's not who we are, but that's who they want to turn us into. I mean, let's face it, they're allowing in those South Africans who are white, and they're restricting immigration regarding others who are not white. So this is really disturbing, what they have to say about civil rights, and then to say Dobb is only the beginning. Well, I thought I heard during the campaign that it's up to the states to decide, and that's what Trump even said. But here they're making it a national situation involving taking away reproductive rights. I do not know the teachings of the Catholic Church, but it sounds to me like a lot of this morality is similar to what I've heard about the Catholic Church. And we're supposed to have freedom of religion here, and my religion certainly doesn't comport with this. Telehealth, taking it away, it's very I can't think of the word. It's amazing, though, that they say telehealth is a threat to state sovereignty, and yet everywhere else it's hypocrisy. That everywhere else they're taking away states' rights and opposing this nationally. Um, and skepticism over IVF procedures, that's something which helps people have children. Um, this is, again, totally outrageous. And then they said some of this can be done through executive orders. I'm sorry, you really need legislation to do this, or constitutional amendments, and they're not going to get it. I can see why this plan was very unpopular, and these issues are very un-American.
I agree, Bruce. I will push back on one thing that I don't think it's purely a Catholic thing.
No, it
If
isn't.
anything,
I'll go on that one.
thank you. I think there's more of a movement toward this stuff that's upheld by fundamentalists and evangelicals. That's what I've read. But I also think that there has been a historical Catholic stance against abortion. So to that extent, I believe that's factual.
Can I
Um,
just say something? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but it isn't just Catholics because the Southern Baptist, the conservative Southern Baptist Church in the South primarily, has been anti-abortion forever. And Roe did many of them saw Roe as they called it Roe Satan Roe Satan. And so it isn't we can't label one particular religion denomination because in the South, as it relates to African Americans, particularly lower income Black women, having a abortion would make you a devil, a Satan.
mhm.
And they have been known to have husbands take their children away from women once they knew, not only divorce them, but take the children away from them if they knew they had a divorce. So I just wanted to put that in there. So
Yeah, I appreciate that, but what about all these restraints on contraception? Do
that's
the
true for the
Southern
Southern
Baptists
Baptists,
also?
yes. And it was easier for them because many of the families couldn't afford them anyway. They told men not to buy condoms.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So we have to be careful that we don't. And I'm a Lutheran, so I'm not I'm not worried about the Catholic. But I'm saying to you, it is not one denomination versus the other. It is structural power. And these were primarily Black-led African American religious organizations that wanted to dominate and continue to dominate over women's rights as it relates to reproductive rights. So I'm done.
Thanks, Ori. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the root issue is religions can say whatever they want and make whatever prescriptions about ways of life to their practitioners that they see fit. But it is not their position to set policy for anyone who is not. It's just church and state need to be separate. And I'll quiet down as moderator. Dr. Chris, you are up.
Yeah, yeah, I have to say, I had read Project 2025 before, but not carefully because I was mostly focusing, I work for the federal government, so I was both focusing on a lot of the chapters that related to how it was going to impact the federal government, education, because I worked in education. But I have to say, reading this and the way they frame it and the way that they're trying to piece by piece go after legislation to create precedent that will be so difficult to overturn even if we have a regime change, which I'm confident that we will have a regime change. But this is it's scary. And it is, I mean, there's a lot of religions that are patriarchal and also I grew up Catholic and within the Catholic Church, we have different arms of the Catholic Church that are more traditionalists. I mean, some that even don't accept Vatican II reforms, and so which they say, made the church too woke. So, and I think you find that probably in a lot of the Christian religions. So, to Rebecca's point, it's really that fundamentalist, whether it's Catholic, whether it's Baptist, whether it's and that really it's a undemocratic belief, right? That women inherently are not equal, right? That they are meant to be submissive to men and they don't have a place in the public space, in the public square, if you will, whether it's government, etc. And their main role, and I've heard people like Charlie Kirk say this, like their role is to have babies, right? and
Oh,
and he
yeah.
encouraged them not to. In fact, I want to say he even referred to them as either breeding machines or breeders, which
Ugh,
is just
how disgusting.
it is truly disgusting,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
But
Disgusting.
to but
That
to
is
see it laid out
disgusting.
this way, it's
Ugh.
it's just beyond scary. And enough
Ugh.
of my rant because it's just we've just got to do something. I
Mhm.
mean, I just
Right,
can't believe in 2025 we're even having these conversations, but we are.
exactly.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And Melissa, go ahead.
Hi. So, along with that Christian right agenda that this is serving, there's also serving the oligarchy because if women can't make enough money or can't make money at all and have more babies, there's really more poverty. If you think about, certainly women who have money already still couldn't really get abortions, but it's people who are really just eking out a living or not, or barely eking out, are still going to have all those babies. So I think it shrinks the middle class more, and the working class, and increases poverty. And I think the agenda is, the oligarchy, to increase the wealth. It serves the wealthy people. That's my under the religious. I think religion is being used to serve that purpose. There we go.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Melissa. Patrice, go ahead.
Hi. Dr. Chris had made mention of, wait, I gotta find my notes. I always have to take notes. Okay, wait, where am I? Robotic, idiotic. Have made reference to how whatever they're gonna do cannot be undone, and it's right there in their document. Their strategic plan is, and it's through legislation where we cannot undo what the destruction they're doing. And just a reminder that a lot of us, we're rational and loving, and we're trying to, we say, "Oh my God, I can't believe they did this, they did that." And to remind ourselves they're irrational. They have extreme worldview, i.e., Peter Thiel is not that he might have participated in this, I don't know, but he is depressed and wants the world to be destroyed. I mean, I don't understand that. I don't want to understand that. And they want us to be robotic idiotics. That's what they want, which means we'll just be unthinking and obedient, and we'll just then follow mindlessly what they want us to follow. So I think that's all I have to say on this. So thank you for listening.
Thanks, Patrice. Mary, I can barely see you, but yeah, go ahead. There you go.
Okay, great. I'm reading with another book club, One Republic Under God, One Nation Under God, and it goes into the history and the beginning of Christian nationalism. And it was beginning with the National Day of Prayer, okay, Eisenhower. And then it went into the Reagan, morality, welfare queens, and how it was already dividing society into these class systems based upon the religious notion that the higher that your income is, the closer you are to God. Seriously, this is part of
Wow.
this is an excellent book to read. And then I compare that to, and I'm getting into a morality issue here, because I belong to the Poor People's Campaign, which is Reverend Barber, and he talks about morality in the sense of responsibility socially as a community, institutional racism, and the establishment of poverty as a way to keep people poor, and the welfare programs, and how it's based upon regulations and eligibility, and now they're taking that away as well. So I think what has happened in our country is such a reaction to everything right now. People, groups, this MAGA young adult male I listened to last night, which was fascinating. They're only involved with it because they are angry about the women being so empowered. So they were feeling angry and resentful that they were being left out. That was the basic of this documentary I listened to. It has nothing to do with the real issues of foreign policy, of domestic policies. They're emotionally reacting. and therefore it is irrational in the thinking. I've been in so many book clubs. Tonight I'm in one with Richard Rohr's group about community building from the ground up. And that's where we are. Some things are going to have to be destroyed. The American Empire has to be destroyed, I think. Just completely and then restart. That's what makes sense to me. It's like begin after doom. Okay.
Thanks,
I'm a
Mary.
crazy.
Thanks. Hey, could you put that the name of that book that you're reading in the chat in case other folks would like to take that up? Thanks so much. Anne, go ahead.
I have to unmute here. All right, there's some historical background that's being missed. One, at least among the white evangelicals, the anti-abortion was deliberately started as a political movement, as a backlash to the civil rights movement of it. I listened repeatedly to Frank Schaeffer, the son of Francis Schaeffer, who was, and he repeatedly and continually apologizes for helping his father start the movement in the 70s. The Catholic anti-abortion started in the late 1800s as a backlash to the women suffragette movement. Before that, they didn't pay any attention to it. And the majority of Catholics are actually pro-choice. There's a big group, Catholics for Choice. And that is and actually it's the majority of Catholics who are there, but it's a little bit more than 50%. The bishops, however, their policy exactly, the Christian nationalism did not start with like the Reagans and everything. The Christian nationalism essentially started with Constantine when he made Christianity one of the League of Religions under the Roman Empire. What you are actually seeing in Christian nationalism is a resurgence or revival, if you want to use that term with your religious friends, of the paganism of the Roman Empire, where the religions are designed to serve the empire and not be separate from them. And so the point is not to worship God. The point is to worship the empire, and the religion is just a tool of worshiping the empire. I have no data on the anti-abortion among the Southern Blacks. I'm Caucasian, German area raised up in the North, so I have no data there. But the bishops actually follow the biblical teaching on abortion. It is perfectly acceptable if the male wants it, just as Cardinal Law, Bishop Timlin, and Bishop Corleone, Nancy Pelosi's bishop, the wonderful pro-life speech that ETWN et al. Was gushing over was when he invoked the snuff porn piece of Maria Goretti, i.e., she says no, just stab her to death. No biggie, she's supposed to lovingly forgive you. And a lot of CDC statistics, the number of unborn fetuses that die due to violence against the mother is roughly equivalent to that are aborted. But that's perfectly acceptable to the Catholic Church, because getting the crap beat out of you is not grounds for an annulment within the Catholic Church.
Thanks, Anne. I've got a couple other hands up,
one other
so I'm gonna.
sentence, pre-reference to anybody who requests it. Men explain religion to me. And
Okay,
I can go on for hours, but I will let you stop.
All right, thanks, Anne. Carolyn, you're up next.
So I just wanted to explain when Bruce said IVF was, their idea was crazy. I just wanted to explain to him, they have a problem because so many eggs are fertilized. And so you have the baby and then what do you do with the other eggs? And so they call that murder. So I know it doesn't make sense, but I just went, when he was saying, why are they against that? That's why.
Yeah, it's not super nuanced thinking, I would say. But thanks, Carolyn.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna do Constance, Joe, and Sabrina, and then I don't know if we'll have time to finish the chapter. Um, I guess it depends on how rich our discussion continues to be. So we'll just play it by ear. We do have a hard stop at 6:30, and I do want to save time for our palate cleanser. So if it gets to be around 6:10, we will change course and we will go to the lessons from cats so that we can end on a more pleasant note. Okay. So Constance, go ahead.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about the Catholic Church, and it's maybe no coincidence that, 6 of the 9 justices are Catholic on the court. But I mean, I grew up in the Catholic Church, and yeah, there was they got their, the church wasn't happy with Roe versus Wade and everything. But I mean, the kind of thinking of, as I grew up in the 60s and 50s, was that, well, that's the government's decision. It's not the church's, and we just have to, adhere to what the church says. But I I see the victimhood of women as almost leading to the kind of things that you read about with the Jeps family in Utah, where they just had women as kind of, slaves, and 12-year-olds were marrying creepy old guys. And, it's like Epstein, it's akin to Epstein. So it's this sort of enabling of the fevered dreams of creepy old men to have their ways with women. And uh, they, I think the mindset of a lot of men are against what is, the rights that are protected in the 14th Amendment, which was passed after the Civil War to protect privacy rights, taking away privacy rights without due process. And that led to the Griswold case, which allowed for contraception and so on. Um, Several justices, I don't know if the majority of them, but several, Alito and Thomas, are very much opposed to the 14th Amendment. And it seems any time a 14th Amendment case comes before the court, um, all the 6 members, Republican appointed members of the court, just pounce down on it, like the restriction of putting Trump on the ballot in Colorado. That was a 14th Amendment case. So I think that they're just they want to see what they can get away with, and they long for the days when men were men and women were women, and nobody had any questions as to which was who and which was which. And it's a kind of again a fever dream of what America was like back in the good old days. And the good old days weren't the good old days. But try convincing um, uh, men who are ticked off that women have gotten as far as they have in society and are beating them in getting educated and so on. They want to preserve their power at all costs. And anything, including laws like the 14th Amendment, um, that threaten that are not okay with them. They're going to do away with any governmental means of protection against privacy rights and the rights of women and minorities as best as possible. And I think we're seeing this play out in Project 2025. I didn't explain myself very well, but watch for if you follow any of the Supreme Court decisions and they are used in their batting down freedoms, you can thank their interpretation, their bad interpretation of the 14th Amendment for that, I think. Bruce maybe can say more about that or disagree if he thinks I'm wrong.
Yeah, I just read the Leah Littman book from, I think it was last year. It's called Lawless or
Yeah.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that one was about how the Supreme Court is not doing a great job, to summarize it poorly.
Mm-hmm.
How it runs on vibes is
Right.
how she puts it.
Right.
Um,
They're throwing
okay,
precedent out the window and running on gut instincts and bad interpretations of history.
okay. Thanks, Constance. I'm gonna do two things. I'm gonna make the executive decision that um, we're not going to finish the chapter today because I don't want us to have to rush through the part about gender identity and LGBTQ because I feel like that's really important as well. And I don't want to give it short shrift. And the conversation on this topic, reproductive autonomy and women's rights, is really rich and nuanced. So I want to give it enough space. So with that, we have 10 minutes 10 or 15 minutes before we're going to go to our palate cleanser lessons with cats. So with that, Joe, you're up next.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's good to be here tonight. I just feel my blood pressure rising as the conversations continue. But to speak to what Constance said, and somebody else mentioned, is I want to say that women empowered are women holding men accountable. And they right now are rejecting to be held accountable to their actions. There is definitely a fertility problem in the United States. And rather than addressing the issue of healthcare, nutrition, whatever it may be caused by, what may ever be causing our fertility problem, they just want to throw more sperm at women and try to get women more pregnant, which is really scary when they start taking away our health care, because pregnancy is a health risk. It's a health risk to every woman in it. And if I were young again, I would be questioning whether I would want to take that risk, which I think is one thing that they're fearing. Biblically, the Christian nationalists believe in the Old Testament and the New Testament. As a recovering ex-Christian, I know that they believe what the Bible says. The Bible says if you overtake a country, you can pillage the country. You can take their goods and their young women as your wives. And this whole thing that we read to me just reminds me of The Handmaid's Tale in so many ways. Following that, we get polygamy. Sorry, I can't pronounce that. They also need to build a working class, and they need women to do that. I know I've heard women speak about boycotting sex if that happens. So that's all I have to say about that. But if it comes down to taking women, young women, and making sex slaves out of them, all this holds them unaccountable. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Sabrina, go ahead. Sabrina, are you there?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm here. Anyway, yeah, I just want to say real quickly, I've seen a lot of comments and videos on TikTok about how sterilization or getting your tubes tied, whatever, for young women. And I always comment that I had a kid at 19 and I wanted my tube tied after that because I was like, listen, I didn't want to have any kids, but I grew up religious, so abortion was like uncomfortable for me. Not anymore, but then it was. And the thing is that not only was it wrong, I was told, no, you can't have your tubes tied because you're too young with too few children. That is what I was told. And I was like, I don't understand. I don't want to have any more children. And they said, well, you may have a future husband who is imaginary that wants to have kids. And I was like, why the hell do I care what an imaginary person wants? And so then I'll see on these videos and stuff where Black women were sometimes sterilized without their freaking consent, and how it was a very different situation depending on if you were white or Black. And I don't know that that is not a situation anymore. And the reason is that I have seen TikToks where OBGYNs are offering their services for abortion for young women who can't get it from like their, or not abortion, but tubal ligation for young women so that they can get sterilized, because otherwise they are going to run into problems with it. Like there's doctors who would just say, nope, you're too young, too few kids. And I was like, I'm young with a kid. That is the every reason why you should stop me from having more children. But anyway, I just want to put that 2 cents in there.
Thanks. Yeah, it's maddening when even our medical partners who are supposed to be giving us the best information and helping us make these decisions are trying to make the decisions for us based on some criteria from however many years ago, or some potential future that, like,
And I
maddening.
ended up having a second kid 10 years later with profound autism. So you better believe I'm a little annoyed that they didn't sterilize me before. I love my son, and I'm not saying anything about him, but it's hard. It's hard for him. It's hard for me. Nobody should have to live this way. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Thanks, Sabrina. And Ellen, I think we will put a bow on our conversation with you, and that's when we will move over to lessons with cats. Ellen, go ahead. I will ask you to unmute. Okay, Ellen may have stepped away or be having technical difficulties. So.
Okay, yeah. Can you hear me
Okay.
now? Can you hear me
Yes.
now? Okay.
Got you now.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm in the car, not supposed to be driving, but wow, this is such an important book and conversation. I think we need to get it into the curriculum of schools. With the Truth Action Project group that is looking at how curriculums, schools are teaching issues. And we specifically on deep state events like COVID, the assassinations, and but this Project 2025 explains everything. It's an invisible empire, New World Order, fascism, and my stepfather was a member of the Heritage Foundation, so I've just loved that we're reading this book and discussing it. And it's real. It's not like this was the plan, and it just explains how they've instigated a culture war, and they basically pitted the abortion rights, women's rights to abortion, with women who didn't want mandated vaccines that cause autism and infertility and things. And so that it's an evil trick, and people need to, we have the right to have these things decided openly and transparently, rather than covertly through like a Supreme Court that is all Catholic and Zionist, probably. People call you anti-Semitic
Okay,
behind your
thanks.
back. So
Thanks,
that's all.
Ellen.
Okay.
All right. What a great conversation we're having. Lots to think about. But I don't want to end on a heavy downer topic. We do need to make sure that our spirits stay strong, stay positive so that we can keep up the fight. So with that, I'm going to transition us to this book that we are reading, which is called Lessons from Cats for Surviving Fascism. It's by Stuart Brittlestar Reynolds. We're reading chapter 5, which is Perfect the Art of Vanishing. And I'm going to see if anyone would like to read. I will start us off while people gather their courage or raise their hands. So, Perfect the Art of Vanishing. Cats have an uncanny ability to disappear at the exact moment you need them most, or depending on their mood, when they're about to be blamed for something. It's not just an instinct, it's an art form. 1 second, they're lounging in plain sight, and the next, they've melted into the shadows, leaving you holding an empty treat bag and asking a lot of questions. This is a skill we should all cultivate, especially when dealing with fascists. Fascists, for all their bluster, are terrible at dealing with things they can't see. They like to think of themselves as master trackers, patrolling borders, checking lists, and monitoring restrooms. But the reality is closer to a cartoon villain stumbling over their own shoelaces from their own stupid gold sneakers. Their obsession with control depends entirely on knowing where you are, what you're doing, and whether you've followed their ridiculous rules about what constitutes acceptable behavior. So when you vanish, they panic, and it's glorious. Picture it. A fascist searching desperately for you so they can yell at you and tell you what you're doing or being wrong. They were just here. They're supposed to be in their assigned place or race or face, etc. I don't see any hands, so maybe I'll keep going. Meanwhile, you're perched silently on that tiny ledge above the stairs, watching their futile attempts to locate you. The key is to make your absence as unnerving as possible. Don't just disappear. Disappear strategically. Leave behind just enough evidence of your presence to make them wonder if you're still nearby, waiting to strike, or if you've already vanished into the ether. Cats are masters of this psychological warfare. They don't just leave, they leave on their own terms. Maybe they slip into a hidden corner to nap, or maybe they're quietly observing from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. Fascists, on the other hand, have no idea how to cope with such subtlety. They're used to loud, predictable resistance, something they can label, categorize, and ideally crush. But a person who knows how to vanish, that's their worst nightmare. And let's be clear, this isn't about running away. It's about staying one step ahead. Cat doesn't vanish because it's scared. It vanishes because it knows it's smarter than you. Fascists love to puff themselves up as all-seeing and all-knowing, but let's face it, they can barely keep track of their own propaganda and criminal acts, let alone a population of clever, stealthy resistors. So practice the art of disappearing. When things get dicey, be the one they can't pin down. Learn to blend in, slip away, and reappear only when it suits you. Maybe you're organizing in the shadows, or maybe you're just enjoying a quiet moment away from their nonsense. Either way, your elusiveness sends a clear message. You don't own me, and you never will. Remember, fascists hate what they can't control, and they can't control what they can't find. So, vanish like a cat who's heard you who's just heard you open the travel carrier for a trip to the vet, swiftly, silently, and with a hint of smugness. Let them scramble to figure out where you've gone while you, refreshed and unbothered, prepare your next move. Because at the end of the day, disappearing isn't about hiding, it's about power. The power to decide when and where you'll be seen, power to be present on your own terms, and the power to leave fascists standing in the dust, wondering what just happened. So, let that be a lesson to all of us. If you need to disappear, to go underground, to remove yourself from their surveillance, these are wise words. Kara, do you have thoughts you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're supposed to share after the cat stuff or not.
Yeah, sure. We've got 16 minutes.
Yeah. What came to mind is not just hiding, but also like not responding, not reacting, not engaging. Don't take the bait. Like let's not be reactive. Let's go on the offense instead of being the defense. That part is more like the Democrats need to go on the offense, not the defense and stuff like that. So I love that chapter. And I saw this book in the bookstore this week, and I just bought it. I didn't, and so I love it. Good stocking stuffer.
Yeah, it's small. Look how small it is.
Yeah.
Smaller than my head. So if your stocking is bigger than my head, you can go in there. Thanks, Kara. Linda, you like to unmute and share some thoughts?
Yes. Hi. Hello,
Hi.
everyone. This is such a great study and group. I just wanted to share that this whole Project 2025 movement reminds me of the Jim Crow era leading up to the Civil Rights Movement. And the point of, hiding and that's what we've had to do. And when I say we, I'm talking about myself on both the indigenous side and the African American side. We've had to work from within the system. We had to use green books to travel. We had to travel at night. We always have to be cautious. You always have to be, teaching your kids to keep their hands at 10 and 2 if they get stopped, what to say, what not to say. So it's like being a cat. You're within the group. You are there. We can see each other, but we have to learn how to function within. And being a healthcare provider, having these limits and restrictions on how we can practice medicine is unfair to the patients. And it's unfair to, to us, as human beings. And I think that the other thing is, I'm thinking of the surrogates too. I just want to cover this, like the Chinese women being limited on how many children they could have. But now they've worked around that because they have American women carrying babies for them. In my travels, I can't tell you how many Caucasian women look like you guys that are carrying babies for Chinese women. And they're being paid quite handsomely to do that. And then they take their babies back to them to China, but they're being carried by American women. And so, there's a way always to work around and to hide within. So I just say, be encouraged. Been there, got the T-shirt all my life, and I've been able to survive. more than just survive, but to thrive. So thank you very much for all that you do and your support. We have to work together. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. I think that with that very hopeful message, that's an excellent place for us to end tonight. So I want to thank everybody for being here and participating and reading along with us. We're here every Thursday at 5 o'clock Central. So hopefully next week we can finish chapter 3 of Project 2025 Survival Guide. We'll focus on gender identity and LGBTQ plus. And I look forward to speaking with you all then. Hope you'll be able to join us. So thanks everybody and have an excellent evening. There is a 7 o'clock call tonight that Ed Spire is running about the Supreme Court. So I hope you'll be able to drop off and then join back in about 40 minutes. So have a great night, everybody. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for being here. Bye-bye.